And we are live,
Yes, we are.
I believe.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
That was the echo. Yeah, last week the preparation was weak, and today it's there's some preparation on my side. Are you prepared, Tan?
Yeah, yeah, I'm prepared.
Yes,
I'm prepared.
it's yeah. Sometimes, well, it might get
You know what,
cringy. It might
Jose?
get cringy this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Again, sorry.
Hmm. Okay, I don't know if it's me or if it's. Let me start this again because it says that you're not on. I'm not sure what's going on. Let me see.
You,
Well, it says that.
me,
Oh, okay,
me.
okay, okay. Sorry, I just needed to refresh my page. Okay, we're on. Sorry, continue.
Okay, I'm now. I lost my thought train.
Oh, sorry. You were saying that last week we had a setup and we're going to continue
Oh
this
yeah,
week.
I know. Okay, I know what
Okay.
I was saying. Okay, it's good. It might become a bit cringy because yeah, the subject is yeah, very occult, but it are real events. Of course, we are still in the quest of we're putting the pieces together in the relation between mind and universe, and the key is language. So yeah. Do you have something to say in advance?
No, I'll say it after you lay it out because I know you said you had a lot of notes. So yes. But it's going to be an interesting one. I think you summarized it very well, the relation between mind and universe, and with language as the key, as well
Yes,
as mathematics will be there. That's the geometry part. But
exactly.
yes, yes,
And conversations with angels. I'm
yes.
going to share my screen.
Hmm.
I've got a few points in the video.
Okay.
Um, Let me see.
Could sell him some
Okay,
spurious. To start off, let me just say
that was not the intention. I have a few points. Let me see. The first one is about here, and yeah, it's um, well, shall we just play this video from the start, so people know what we're talking about. It's a playlist, and it speaks of John Dee, Shakespeare, Dean Kelly, and people like that in that era, and their quest for knowledge, occult knowledge, and practically everything is touched from the Rosicrucians to. But anyway, it's very yeah. How should I call it? Extra scientific. Let's just start the first video for the sake of an introduction. Let's just start the first video from the start. Let's go.
to start off, let me just say this is the greatest story no one's ever heard before. And the best way to think of it
You can
is
hear it,
as a
right,
cosmic
Tan?
detective story.
Yes, I can hear it.
Okay,
So we're going to start our detective story with someone that I'm sure everyone in Britain has heard of, William Shakespeare. And William Shakespeare's story more or less begins when he was 13 years old and he went to the Feet at Leicester and saw all these actors in wonderful costumes and pageants and got inspired. So we're going to jump over from 1577 to 1585, when a very young Shakespeare left his wife and young twins behind in Avon and went adventuring. And the supposition is that he went to London and became an actor and so forth, and eventually rose up through the ranks to become a famous playwright. But that supposition leaves the lost year sort of hanging, and it doesn't explain how Shakespeare, supposedly semi-educated peasant boy, was able to have all this wonderful occult knowledge, this wonderful knowledge of the world in his plays. And that gap of experience, that gap of time, if you will, is where everyone tends to go, oh, well, Shakespeare really wasn't Shakespeare. He was Bacon, he was De Vere, he was Marlowe. No, William Shakespeare was William Shakespeare. He just had a very interesting few years as a secret agent. Okay? And in those wonderful few years as a secret agent, he made friends with the most brilliant mind of the era, Dr. John Dee. And we can trace most of the stuff that is in Shakespeare that has no direct explanation to his years with Dee. Dee had the largest library in England, one of the largest libraries in Europe. And if there was any one place you could go to get everything from Ceremonial Magic of Agrippa to Holinshed's Chronicles to the history of the Irish race, it was Dee's library in Mortlake. So a very young Shakespeare left Avon, and he came to London, and because of his connections with the Earls of Leicester, the Stanleys and the Herberts and that large crowd, he became friends with Sir Philip Sidney's circle, the Areopagus circle, and a minor poet member of that circle by the name of Edward Dyer needed a bright young man who had a good legible hand and could write quickly to be his secretary. So Dyer hired Shakespeare to be his secretary. Now, Dyer, in addition to being a minor poet at this point, was also a spy. And his spy master is this fellow here, Burleigh, William Cecil. So Burleigh sent Dyer and Shakespeare to the continent to follow Dee and Kelly. Now, we have to jump back slightly and explain about Dee and Kelly. John Dee was the most brilliant mind of his era. He's the man that pulled mathematics out of the realm of magic and turned it into a science. He wrote the prologue to Euclid's theorems. He created the system that we still use today for celestial navigation, which allowed the English mariners to conquer the New World, find the New World, and then conquer it. And by the 1580s, early 1580s, John Dee had mastered all of human knowledge as it existed then. And still wanting more knowledge, Dee decided that the only way to get more information was to bump it up a notch and talk to the angels. Now, in the 1560s, Dee had come across several works, one of whom was by the abbot of Spondheim, Trithemius, which codes and green language hid the core of how you do angelic communications. So Dee decided in the early 1580s that he would give it a shot, that he would talk to the angels. And pretty much as soon as he made this decision, an angel came rapping at his prayer room window, which was on the, what we would call in America, the third floor, you'd call it the second floor, of his house at Mortlake. And lo and behold, when he went and pulled the curtains back and opened the window, there was an angel floating in the air, and the angel handed him a shoe stone, a small round globe of rutilated smoky quartz. Now, this shoe stone still exists.
Can I say something before you continue? I don't know if you want to play it through or...
Yes.
Okay. So just to summarize what he's talking about, so we are around in the 16th century, and, you know, to connect the dots, so he mentioned Shakespeare, he mentioned John Dee, these are the players, And then, okay, that's where we are right now. And Edward Dyer. Edward Dyer. Let me just. Oh, I thought I was putting it in the main comment. Oh, Amani, Koku. I hadn't been on the comment section, but Amani, everyone. So, he's saying that. So we have those three. Comment section. Oops. All right. Sorry, that was me. So, so he's talking about the. Yeah, Shakespeare, and he mentioned this aspect that has always been questioned when it comes to Shakespeare, because he seemed like people asking how can someone who just came from a countryside village in England know so much about history and the courts and so on and so forth. So he says that the years when Shakespeare cannot be accounted for, like his lost years, were actually spent in the company of this very genius fellow called John Dee, who is brilliant. He was a brilliant mathematician and theologian is a philosopher. Yes, philosopher, and he was just a seeker. And he felt that he had known the knowledge of mankind, so he wanted to know the higher dimension knowledge. So the language of the angels. And in the Bible, there are some instances where people have spoken to angels, and so he felt like there was some knowledge outside of human knowledge that he could access. So he prayed, or he sought the language of angels. And so that's where we are right now. And then the angels delivered this stone to him. But so it says his quest for knowledge, for the philosopher's stone, and for the ultimate communication with the higher dimensions. So yeah.
Yes, and just for the impression, we played it from the start to give you an impression on what frequency the show will be. Add some geometry to this, and you get the picture. Shall I continue to play this first one, because
Yes.
my timestamps begin in the second. So
Okay, go ahead.
I'll just finish the first one.
Okay.
And if you sweet talk the little lady who's in charge of the manuscript room, she may even open the case and let you touch it. Now, that's what happened to me. And I was standing there holding the stone, and she's going, "Oh, please don't drop it." And I was fighting the New Age desire to rub it on my third eye, put it on top of my head. But all I got to do was just hold it. And just simply holding the shoe stone that the angel gave Dee in 1581 triggered a whole sequence of events over the next year and a half that led to a group of us standing on a mountain in Sedona and chanting the entire Enochian corpus and watching the Ophanim, or the whirling ones, come down as big eye-filled tornadoes. It's a slightly different story. What Dee did with the shoe stone is immediately try any member of his family, anyone standing around, to see if they could see anything in it. And he didn't have very good result with that. His footman, his servant, saw shadows and became frightened. He even tried children. They saw a little bit more, but nothing of interest. Until finally, one fine spring morning in 1582, a very charming con man who introduced himself as Edward Talbot at that point showed up. And after just a few minutes of discussion, Dee ushered him into the prayer room, and Kelly immediately began to see images in the stone, and they were off and running for 8 years continuous of angelic conversations. Now, the entertaining point about those early sessions is that the angels began to deliver a language. But first of all, they had to deliver a filter, and that filter was called the seal of truth. EH20. And the seal of truth is a very interesting diagram. Dan can explain at length why the 5-7 represents symmetry angles and all sorts of truly remarkable ideas and concepts. The angels delivered this so that the transmission would be pure. And they said that not only do you need to have the shoe stone on top of the seal of truth, but you need to have a very special arrangement on the table under the seal of truth. And even the legs of the table need to be sitting on small versions of the seal of truth so that nothing can come through that doesn't pass through this very precise filter. So as soon as they had the seal of truth up and running, the angels delivered, can we have the 64 language grid? Yeah, no, the next one, yeah. And D records that he had a piece of parchment in front of him. And on that piece of parchment, very slowly, like developing a photograph, appeared this grid of letters. Now, this is not the entire Enochian alphabet. This is the title of the Enochian letters. Now, in English, we have A, and we spell A, sometimes, but the name and the letter are directly related. In Enochian, the name or the title of the letter is not simple, it's complex. In fact, some of the Enochian letters have 4 and 5, can we skip on just one? Have 4 or 5 different, there we go. Have 4 or 5 different letters attributed to each letter. But it completely fills in the 8x8 grid. And 8x8 is 64, the number of transfer proteins in RNA and the number of codons in DNA. Now, this language grid was given on Good Friday, 1582. And the angels told Edward Kelly that he needed to learn this so he could read the script the next time they got together. Now, Kelly, in the beginning, was probably conning D. And he really probably didn't believe it, probably thought this was just a good way to get into this guy's good graces so he could sell him some spurious gold powder and some spurious manuscripts. But Kelly got tricked. And on Easter Monday, 1582, when the angels came back and said, "Can you read it yet?" And Kelly said, "No, I didn't learn it." The angels squeezed him. And D records that Kelly was in excruciating pain for about 20 minutes. And when he came out of his pain trance, he could read it. Now, this gives us the clue that the language itself is being extruded, is being produced by the DNA. So once Kelly could read the language, then the angels began transmitting, first of all,
I'll let it play till the first timestamp.
Practice runs that sort of like what we call in the South speaking in tongues. It's sort of nonsense syllables. But as those nonsense syllables built up, it eventually became a language. Now we know of over 7,000 languages, of which only a handful are man-made. And those man-made languages are usually experiments or they're technical languages. But in all the 7,000 languages and all the dozen or so made-up languages, there's not one that is real, that has a grammar and a syntax that can be translated. They're all artificial. Enochian is a real language. And the curious thing is, the calls or the invocations in this language were given early on, and years passed before the angels got around to translating them.
Yes, I want to stomp it here about this Enochian language being a real language out of 7,000 languages created by men. What is your thought about that, Dan? What are the associations that come up to you?
Well, It's sort of to me, it's interesting. It's like a translation, I think, like the basic translation of the human language into, its basic forms, because it's something that apparently it's a higher dimensional language, but at the same time, it also follows, it has meanings, in the human sense. So I think it's a way that someone managed to traverse the two and, maybe translate the meanings into a human language. And the fact that they say it's real, that you can actually have there's the characters more complex than in most languages. There are sounds that have several meanings, I think they said. So that's interesting that they somehow
Yes.
managed to.
Yes,
Mm.
I have questions about what he means with real. What does he mean? What does he mean real? Is it as he says the way, and that's actually also interesting, the way those angels forced him to learn it. You may know or you may not know, but that's the same way
Mohammed, you're going to say in the cave?
yes.
Yes, yes, read,
Yes,
read.
yeah, I saw this. I saw this.
Yes, it
The
really
similar,
reminded me of that as well. Yes. Mm.
but so how this guy explains it is that the language had direct connections with his DNA or
Mhm.
something like that, right? You got that
Yes,
too, right? So
yes.
so so I'm immediately thinking immediately going to the similarities in your mind and in the universe. So or am I going too fast?
Well, the one thing that it reminded me of that the incident was, Jacob's, because Jacob is also, he should be looked at. He had a lot of communication and like a lot of people, and he was not even a righteous man. He actually had more in contacts, in the Bible with angels. First with the Jacob's ladder, his ascension up to the heavenly realm in his sleep, and then the second time was when he wrestled with an angel, and then the angel well, he won against the angel, but the angel kicked his leg and hurt his leg. I don't know whether he limped or something, but at that time is when he changed his name from Jacob to Israel. So it's like a change in in his identity. But even in that, if it was after he had wrestled with the angel, then he asked the angel for his name, and I think the angel gave him information. So even in that, it was a physical alteration with the angelic being, and then after that he gets the knowledge. So it's similar with the John, with the Kelly one, that he's squeezed, however it is, he's squeezed, in a physical way, and then after that, he gets the knowledge. Yeah, so that's what it reminded me of.
Right.
Oh, greetings, Philip Lindsay. Welcome.
Uh, all right. So what shall I do? Shall I jump to the next point at the third minute, or
Yes.
shall I play to that point?
I think you can go to the third minute.
All righty. Um, and let's go. Um, the reason I have this point is because there's a pentagram association. Um, but yeah, just listen. It's funny or interesting or spooky. Place it on the notch in your mind where you prefer it to rest. Let's go.
Pentagram formed of 5 synagogues. So they're founded by 7 hills, and in the very center of town, there is a pentagram formed of 5 synagogues. So the very city of Prague is an analog of the seal of truth. Now, this really got Dee's juices going. In addition to Prague was also the capital of Rudolf II, who was very much the Hermetic philosopher king of the time. And so this seemed to be the answer to a lot of situations, both spiritual and political, in the sense that if you were going to start a new Hermetic world, Prague is probably the place in the late 16th century that you'd want to start it. Basically,
Right. So you got it. So in Prague, a lot happened in the 16th century on these frequencies. And so yeah, Prague is a special place with a pentagram of synagogues in the city. You comments on that, or shall I jump to the next quote unquote funny?
No, that's a good one, and that also ties with the geometry and geography. So yes, geography is just the geometry of the earth. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Here's a funny detail about Shakespeare. So there's a lot going around. I met a lot of people that believe that Shakespeare is all fake. He couldn't hardly sign his own name, and that John Dee and his crew was behind the works of Shakespeare. So let's jump. This may be funny.
unattributed but very similar to a young Shakespeare with the right age, was Francis Garland. So as we began to look for Francis Garland and didn't find him, we began to cross-reference Shakespeare. And guess what? Every time we have Francis Garland showing up with D, there's no record of Shakespeare. In the entire 10 years that Francis Garland appears in Dee's diary, there is not a single incident of Shakespeare being, knowledgeably attributed to be in one place when Garland is in another. And so the idea began to grow that maybe Francis Garland was Shakespeare. And this is fascinating. If Shakespeare actually, as a young man, traveled as a spy for the Queen, one of Burleigh's intelligencers, and spent time with Dee, spent time in Prague at the court of Rudolf II, then all the mysteries of Shakespeare's work vanish like players at the end of a play. It goes away. He, of course, would have learned all of his occultism and all of his higher science, higher awarenesses from Dee. He would have learned all about court etiquette and politics and intrigue from the court of Rudolf II. He would even have made the connection with Elsinore and Hamlet from the political point of view, from the connection with Tycho Brahe. So all of the problems with where did Shakespeare get his information just vanish. And the
yeah, that's his that's in my eyes it's a funny detail.
I don't buy that for 1 second, but
yeah. So his assumption of his findings, he believes Shakespeare was a secret agent. Like I said, in my life, I encountered a lot of people that believe that John Dee is the one behind Shakespeare.
Do you know what I think?
And this is 1 minute. This secret agent connection that I see is John Dee signing his letters with 007.
Mm-hmm. For me, I think that he was he was a pen name that a lot of the people used to put forth their ideas. And so to me, he's a conglomeration of different thoughts. I think that people wrote under the name. He was a mask, and maybe he was a real person, I don't know, but they could have wrote under that pseudonym of maybe his identity. because even if he was, taken in from a village and, put in through this rigorous training in the courts and so on and so forth, the ways of expressing oneself is usually based on one's education, and the differences in education between, the aristocracy at that time and the peasants was quite wide. But the other thing was, it could have been a different people, a group of different people. The other one, he says that about Francis Garland, the other person that was usually brought up as a candidate for Shakespeare was Francis Bacon. And Bacon would have been a great candidate. First of all, he was quite rumored, and there was a lot of truth to it, that he was a child, the illegitimate child of the Virgin Queen Elizabeth. And so he would have been versed in the court as well, and should have been in the presence of men such as John Dee and the other, court elites. There's very little chance that somebody from, the village of Stratford upon Avon, where Shakespeare comes from, and he suddenly, given access to all these, libraries of books and so on.
Yeah. But it seems that there was a war going on over knowledge, right? The Crusades,
Yes.
The Catholic Church. So it seems that so you I'm not completely, I don't completely agree that the knowledge gap between peasants and others was great. Maybe it was different. So it could be that the peasants were in higher science, and that the elite were trying to yeah to press to suppress the freedom that science brings.
Yeah.
Like flat Earth, it's in flat Earth days, right?
Yes. And
Or just after flat Earth days, I don't know.
yeah, well, funnily enough, they were the opposite of the flat earth. They were the globalists, the global theater.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's the funny part about Shakespeare, right? This fella believes he was a high level secret agent, but
Yes,
of course,
and to your wall of knowledge. So the players in the game, as as you said, the first one is the papacy, the Pope, with the Catholics, and then you have the Rudolph and I would say the anti-Catholic, the hermeneutics, however you pronounce that. The people who felt like that there should be more symbolism and a deeper dive for knowledge in spiritual matters, rather than just an adherence to practice and
yeah.
to the basic morality. So yes, so you have those. All right, we can continue if you like.
Yeah. Do you know that in the city where I live, Rotterdam, you had a church, because the Germans bombarded the inner city. They opened the inner city for the combustion engine on wheels, but so there was a church, and they rebuilt it but smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And this church that was a Catholic denomination that incorporated knowledge, because they said, of course knowledge, math and science is of God. That's the structure of the universe. So of course it's part of it has to be part of religion. But the church nowadays is used for TEDx and those type of events. But anyway,
Yes. Oh, and
until the Second World War, there was a Catholicism that incorporated knowledge. So you could say that the world wars were also part of the crusade. But anyway.
oh man, I don't even want to go down that crusade route, because now we'll be throwing in the Knights Templars and too many things. But yes, so I would say that in summary, the Catholic position was more emphasis on belief and rituals and practice. And for the Rosicrucians and the other societies, especially the secret ones, they wanted valued more knowledge and secret as well as public. So yeah.
Yeah. A small detail in the bombardment: only the Roman Catholic Church and the townhouse and the post office were standing in the center of the city.
Wow.
So the Germans. That's to complete the suggestion that the World War was still a crusade
Yes.
against the Gnostic knowledge. But yeah, yeah, that was the funny quote unquote Shakespeare part. I digress, but I digress. Next we're jumping to we are already in part 3, and we're jumping to the 6th minute, and yeah, again, they in my words, they are trying to save Gnostic knowledge, or trying to turn the Protestant church into Gnostic knowledge. I thought it was interesting to share. Here we go.
For everybody. And so you have this teeming circle of espionage swirling around the fact that the Protestant world was about to end. And if you know your history, the Spanish Armada was a close-run thing, and it was only broken up by a somewhat magical storm that didn't allow the Armada to land and pick up soldiers in Holland, and completely destroyed it as they crossed around Scotland and left all these Spanish sailors adrift on the beaches of Scotland and Ireland and so forth. So if you think about what the spies in Prague were doing, they were trying to counterbalance this rising force of really quite nasty Catholicism from Philip II. The Inquisition, Philip II, in addition to loving to grab paintings and store them away in his private quarters, was quite a fan of the auto de fe, the mass burning of heretics and so forth. Rudolph II spent his early adulthood, teenage years at the court of Philip II. And unlike his brother Matthias, who thought this was a really good idea, Rudolph came back to Prague absolutely aghast at what the supposed Christian church had been doing. And Rudolph's goal was to completely circumvent the Catholic Church, to actually create a new Hermetic Rome in Prague. Since Rome has 7 hills, Prague has 7 hills, the idea was that we were going to restart the whole idea of spirituality, politics, etc., on an entirely new basis. Now, it's not really Rudolph's fault that it didn't succeed. I don't think anyone in the late 16th century could have pulled it off.
So again, Prague, and now you see why they chose Prague. There's another. There are a lot of reasons why Prague was chosen, because there's a mythical story about how Prague started, and so yeah, there's a lot to do about Prague. My personal association with Prague and that whole area is that I believe there are traces of here we go again, black people claiming other people's culture. But anyways, if these other people say that they don't know where it comes from, and it's similar to what I see in West Africa, then I think, okay, then I know where it comes from. It comes from the Moors, I think we are underestimating how big the Moorish era was, how influential the Moorish era was in the continent, but also inside Europe. But anyway, you anything to say, Tan?
Just to add an interesting detail about the Spanish Armada and the people who managed to, push it back. So we have Holland, you have Scotland. And funnily enough, Scotland is where you get the, the rites, the Masonic rites. You have Adam Smith and all that. And then better the history of the Dutch. And,
Yeah, the ever underestimated Dutch. Yes. Yes.
yeah. So it seems as if it was like this kind of force versus force, the Catholic force of the Armada versus the maritime force, because they won at the sea. That's where the main battle was. So it was like this maritime force of Protestantism versus the Catholic Armada, who had the backing of the papacy. That was no small thing in those days. So yeah, we can continue.
Okay, I'm skipping to number 4.
In prison.
So this speaks about some. I'm gonna put it maybe more over a minute before the point I've because maybe it needs some more explanation. Okay, we're going to scientific experiments that they did. Let's just watch.
Kingdom, the original early dynasties of Egypt, that there was an enormous amount of gold that seems to have no source. Unless you want to speculate that the Egyptians were sailing to North America and far distant places for sources.
This is about transformation.
And we have to say they made it.
Of matter.
There is no rich gold ores immediately in the Nile Valley. And there's no way to account for the amount of gold that the Old Kingdom used and had, unless you want to speculate they got it from the Americas or that they made it. Now, one of the interesting things is that up until the 19th century, every apothecary shop in Europe had mummy dust. And mummy dust was sort of part of the universal panacea. You would eat mummy dust, drink mummy dust, and it would have a salutary effect on your immune system. It was a cure for lots of things. Now, in that mummy dust was gold dust, and a very strange form of gold, a monatomic gold that had sort of popped like a popcorn kernel. Now, no one really understood why that was or where it came from until you start looking for the origins of mummification. And the Old Kingdom started using a certain type of natron or salt that could only be found in one place in the Western Desert. And guess what? That one spot where they found all the salt for mummification in the early dynasties was also the location of a yellow silica meteorite. In fact, some of the Egyptian glass, some of the Egyptian faience was actually made using this yellow meteoric glass. But as part of that meteor, there were other trace minerals. And at the center of the huge expanse where the yellow glass meteorite landed are the natron beds. So using the natron, the salt from this meteoric glass, to mummify, and then over time, the very subtle energies coming from the priests who were doing the rituals and coming from the energy of the bodies that were being mummified, it transmuted the heavier elements in the mummy, in the body, into monatomic gold, mummy dust. Now, very early on in the Old Kingdom, the sacred scientists of Egypt discovered the basic principle of how to use this meteoric glass to transform other metals into gold. Now, this idea remains.
So yeah, okay. Yes, indeed, alchemy, Koku, alchemy, and the transmutation. That was the word. The transmutation of matter, and using angelic chants, apparently. Or did you get something else out of it, Dan?
Yes, so he makes three claims. The first is that that there was gold in Egypt, and the only way to have gotten it is for them to produce it, to make gold, like spinning gold out of some other substance. And that's what alchemy is. But, I would have to investigate that further, because from what I thought was the case was that there were gold mines in Nubia, and that's where the Egyptians got their gold from. So, yeah. But the other thing that he said that was interesting was, this salt that called that he called the natron. We actually have a Lake Natron in Tanzania, in East Africa, and some other lakes too. There's the Flamingo Lake, where it's a high concentration of can't remember which chemical it was, but Lake Natron, if you look it up, it's a concentrated lake in Tanzania, and it has this, very interesting reddish color, and it's actually very beautiful, but it's deadly. You can't actually swim in it or anything. It's just this concentration. So it's a salt lake, and it's near the border of Kenya. So it's really in Kenya, Tanzania, just like the mountain. But
And how did it become salty? Is it like the Dead Sea, evaporation of water, and is that the source of the high concentration of salt?
no, there's microorganisms, and then the chemical makeup of the lake. So it's
No
mostly
meteor, no meteors involved.
Well, he says that there was a meteor around that area, and one thing about that area is that it has even the crater lake. There's a crater lake in Tanzania and Kenya that were actually formed by meteorites. So there are surfaces that were formed by meteors. So it's not impossible. There might be a meteor there that formed it as well. But the reddish color comes from the microorganisms, and then it has a high salt content. So that was just interesting when he said that, because I know of that, and the Egyptians were close enough to, to go as far as that, or they might have been similar ones. But yeah.
Okay, maybe you have one of the elements to transmute lower metals to gold, Tan.
Yeah. So you just need a particular, combination of elements to create, to change the structure of one metal into another. That's what the philosophers and the scientists, natural scientists, have been, were seeking.
Yes, your friend Bwana Haguziki has arrived. He
Yes,
says
I see he's
he
already,
says hello.
forming
He says
insults and
hello.
so on. Yes. Koku alchemy. Yes, the alchemist.
Okay, so you get an impression about what people have been looking for, seeking for, and have been involved with. So this was the number 4. Yes. So next, I could play. It's just 2 minutes. I could finish this one because the next timestamp is at the end of this one.
Remained, but the secret slowly over time was lost until you get to the founding of alchemy in the 1st century AD in Alexandria. They still had the principles, but they had forgotten what the prima materia was. In other words, the idea that this was connected to heavy metal infused meteoric glass had completely disappeared. So other than a few transmutation that we find in the 1st and 2nd century, there's a gap in which we don't find any documented, any really hard evidence for transmutation for roughly 800 or 900 years. And then something very curious happened. If you remember your Bible, when Abram switched from being Abram, worshiping the God Most High, which was Draco, to worshiping Yahweh and becoming Abraham, an event happened. Abraham sacrificed unto Yahweh, and through the middle of his sacrifices passed a flaming torch. And the tradition is that flaming torch is the meteoritic stone that's encapsulated in the Kaaba in Mecca.
Okay, here we go.
Now, in the early 10th century, a group of followers of the family of the prophet called the Fatimids, after Muhammad's daughter Fatima, came to power all across North Africa and in Egypt. And the Fatimids had a little splinter group called the Ismailis. They're still around. And they were pretty radical folks. So in the early 10th century, the Ismailis destroyed the current version of the Kaaba and removed the stone. And they gave part of that stone to the Fatimid Caliph in Cairo. And about 60 years later, the stone was put back into the Kaaba when it was rebuilt. Now, the only problem is the volume of that stone had shrunk by 60% between when the Ismailis put it out and when it was officially put back.
Interesting,
and
right?
in the later rebuildings of the Kaaba, you can clearly see that earlier it used to be huge and now it's really small. So what happened to the missing 60% of this extremely rich in platinum, palladium, iridium, rhodium meteorite? What happened to it? Well, apparently the Caliph of Cairo, the Fatimid Caliph, kept most of it, and he passed it on to his son and his grandson. And his grandson, El-Harun the Mad Caliph, about 100 years before the Crusades, apparently got a little bit too fond of it and didn't understand how to work it, and it drove him crazy. And the tradition is he buried his most secret treasures under the temple, the remains of Herod's temple in Jerusalem, and walked east into the desert and disappeared.
This detail was important for
Now,
the next minutes.
one of the things El-Harun the Mad did was he declared the entire city of Jerusalem was off limits to Christians. Then a few years after his time, the Turks swept out of Central Asia, conquered the whole region, drove the Fatimids back, and they also continued the idea that Christians could visit the city, but they couldn't visit the holy places. And slowly over time, this became the cause of the Crusades. So the first crusade, wading through blood up to the horses' fetlocks, conquered Jerusalem. And the first thing the new king of Jerusalem did was install a group of very strange knights in the ruins of Herod's temple, supposedly to protect travelers, although there were only a dozen of them, so how could they possibly protect travelers? And what they really seemed to have been doing was carrying on archaeological excavations under the temple. 20 years down.
Right. That's I'm not a historian, you know, and I doubt everything that it's that was said about history. But yeah, is it true? Is that how it went, Dan?
Well, he's skipping a lot, but I would say, okay, generally, they did go to Jerusalem. There was that whole crusades, and they had minor victories back and forth and so on. And Christians were forbidden, eventually, just slowly, from entering the, from entering the sacred city. So yeah, he's generally true. What happened with I think he's referring to the Knights Templar. Maybe this was before, but there were many.
Yeah, it's the Knights Templars.
Okay, so what they said was that they were actually trying to, retrieve the stone from where it was. And so obviously the Turks and the Harun and the Caliphs did not want them to do that, so they eyed them with suspicion. So yeah, there was some a transfer of knowledge, some secret knowledge, and they did manage to get some information. So even when people say that Europe was it got a lot of its knowledge from the Arabs, that's one of the ways that they got them. They got documents, they got writings, they got as close to it as they could. They went on the quest for the Holy Grail, which was also tied to that as well. So yeah, there's some truth to what he's saying, but he's also skipping a lot. So, but yeah. We can continue.
There's a lot said about the how and why of the nights, and yeah, I hear what I hear elsewhere, that they were supposedly there to protect travelers, and yeah, it's suspicious. But yeah, excavations. The one says they were looking for the Ark of the Covenant, and of course, the Ark of the Covenant has similar myths around it, like it's the knowledge, undescribable knowledge, and whatever. It's I suspect these people's narratives about history anyway. So let me see. This is part 5. Yeah, the yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they went in search of a lot of things. Some of those things, were, made up for, to attract, pilgrimages. Some villages and some cities actually lived on such spiritual tourists. So
Yes. Obviously, just like in Islam, you have yeah. This is the stone where Mohammed rested when he was on his way to.
oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah,
And
and
this
so
is the
those
finger of the apostle, so and
yes.
so. Yes.
I suspect Jerusalem and the whole area is riddled
Littered with all
yeah,
kinds of holy body parts. But yeah, we can continue.
just like any other. Anyway,
Yes.
the third minute, yeah, Notre Dame. So there seems also to be something hidden in these are just maybe I digress, but these are those funny quote unquote details along the way.
The temple. And as we begin to track this, we begin to see that they had the prima materia, and there may even be a little bit of it left, buried under Notre Dame Cathedral. That's another story. But they didn't know how to make it.
You see, so he's suggesting that under the Notre Dame in Paris, there may be a piece or pieces of the black stone at the Kaaba.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to share to make it extra funny is all these super rich people offering money to repair the Notre Dame after the fire. Do you all remember that?
Yeah. A lot of even African countries, coughed
Yeah.
up some dough.
So in that light, I just wanted to drop this. Yeah, maybe it's not a bomb, maybe it's just a firecracker, but I just wanted to to lay the egg and let you people hedge it. But anyway, let's go to so all kinds of practices they did with this language, and one of them was just watch.
Neglected to tell the emperor exactly how easy it was. Neglected to tell the emperor that, it was everywhere. All you had to do is just go scoop up some river sand and go to work, and you could do it. But the fact that we have a golem, and that we know from various writings that the magical Kabbalistic process to make a golem.
Oh yeah, in the at the riverbanks of Prague, this same meteoric glass was found in the dirt, in the sediments of this river. So again, Prague, a lot happened in Prague. So this meteoric glass is also found there, and the transmutations were also transmutation was also practiced there with the mud of the river. But anyways,
which is that to hold the charge, you put the word Amet same as the seal of truth,
Let me
on his
scroll back.
forehead. Neglected to tell the emperor exactly how easy it was. Neglected to tell the emperor that, you know, it was everywhere. All you had to do is just go scoop up some river sand and go to work, and you could do it. But the fact that we have a golem, and that we know from various writings that the magical Kabbalistic process to make a golem, which is that to hold the charge, you put the word Amet, same as the seal of truth, on his forehead, and that brings him to life, that animates him. And then when you want him to go to sleep, you erase the A, and Amet becomes Met, which is death, and the golem goes to sleep. Now, the story is they forgot to erase the A one night, and the golem went on a wild party like a tourist on a spree in Prague, and got very destructive. And that's the origin of the Frankenstein stories. And they had to physically stop the golem, hold him down, and erase the A to get him to go to sleep. But as the guide will tell you, at the old Jewish synagogue and cemetery in Prague, the golem's remains are still in the roof of the synagogue, up under the beam, where he will still be until the next time the Jews of Prague need protecting.
Well, well, well. That's yeah, some interesting ish, right? But yeah, again,
Yeah.
occult, cringy, call it what you want, you know. The playlist will be dropped in the will be put in the description, and then you the parts that I skip here, you can watch it back. But anyways, those are the practices that they did with this angelical language. That's why I skipped to this part. And yeah, let's put in a little math. You have something to add on this part, Tan? On the Dracula and the golem chanting. I mean
I would,
Frankenstein.
but
Sorry.
it's too long for now. All I would say about the golem is, you know, it's the transmutation. Transmutation is simply the changing of one thing into another. So whether it's lead into gold, or you know, like that story of, you know, the princess who was supposed to spin hay into gold. Remember that story?
Yes, vaguely. Yeah, vaguely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it was a case that it's Rumpelstiltskin. Yes, that's the story where there was this princess. Oh no, she wasn't a princess. She was just a regular girl. And then, you know, her father came. The king was in town, and he said what a, you know, beautiful lady she was. And then the father boasted about his daughter and said, my daughter can spin straw into gold. And so the king took her and put all these bales of straw into gold. Yes, all these bales of straw into her room, and told her to spin them into gold the next morning. And then while she was crying, because obviously she could not, here comes this, you know, demon dwarf or whatever called Rumpelstiltskin, and then he comes in the room and says, oh, I will give you, you know, show you how to do it, or give you the secret, or do it for you, you know, if you promise me one thing. And so yeah, she promised him her first child, and then he spun all the straw into gold for her, and she ended up marrying the king. Anyway, it's a long story, but that's the whole thing. Another example of changing an object into something else is the changing of water into wine. It's simply
Yes.
changing. Yeah. So, and all those miracles in the Bible, a lot of them are, you know, transmutative miracle, where something changes into something else. So yeah, but I don't want to, you know, stray too far. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe you're suggesting that golem was something else. A golem can still be a human in a certain state.
Oh yes. So a golem is a transmutation. It's like what Adam was done to taking clay. It was, like sand clay or river clay, river sand, and then making that into a human being and then giving it some sort of light. And then, like he said, you can control it through the use of words, which is a language. So you're controlling your creature with language. And
Right. So
yes.
so that's what they were doing in Prague.
Yes.
Okay, alrighty. Well, let's skip let's add some math to the equation.
Similar oaths to you could trust. Okay? Now, perhaps we should talk a little bit about the angelic workings themselves. Dee's great intellectual discovery, which happened in the 1560s, was discovering the idea of the fourth dimension. Now, this was a radical idea. He called it the Holy Grail of mathematics. Now, they didn't have any mathematical way to describe higher dimensions, so it had to be described rather poetically. But in one of the documents that we have that is attributed to Dee, we find a series of seals that, when put together properly, form a cube within a cube. And as you can see, as you can see, that's the basis of a tesseract or a hypercube. Now, this idea was sort of bubbling around in the back of Dee's mind since the 1560s. And even though he didn't have the mathematics to describe it, he realized very early on that this was the secret to higher orders of information, higher orders of learning and awareness and science. Dee was a very smart man. If you could imagine what it would take brain power wise to even imagine that there's another physical dimension that we can't see, can't understand, and that it contains a right angle to every other right angle in the world, you get an idea of how smart Dee really was. Okay? So to have discovered the idea of a hypercube in a very ancient magical document just sort of blew Dee's mind. It just kicked the doors wide open to all sorts of very entertaining things. So when he began the angelic workings, one of the things he was continually looking for in the angel transmissions was this sort of higher dimensionality, this sort of higher mathematics. Now, the early language works and the seal of truth, yes, this has very powerful symmetries, it has very powerful mathematics, but it wasn't until the angels really kicked in Prague that the good stuff started to come. And the very idea of the elemental seals, the elemental tablets, form a hypercube. In other words, the angels transmitted 4 tablets, one for each of the elements, and they are arranged in such a way that if you go off the corner of one, you come back in the opposite corner. If you go off the corner of another one, you come back in the opposite corner. So you're moving from hyperdimensional space to hyperdimensional space. There you go. So this was a very, very powerful idea. And the basic idea was that if you're working with 4-dimension and higher energies, that you have available to you this very powerful but very subtle force that can literally change the shape and the atomic number and the nature of physical elements.
Is that understood? So
Yep.
So just a minute. This timestamp I put it on 4:35 in part 6, but I'm either I missed it or because there's a strong connection between language and geometry here, because John Dee, he had it described in poetry. And that's interesting. So long before the hypercube was defined, he had it described in poetry because he was not there yet in math. And I found that very interesting.
Yes. well, we'll continue, and then I'll say something also about the mandalas, how they described mathematical concepts in also visual form in terms of artistic work. So yeah.
Okay, shall I just play on? It's about 2 minutes to the next. Oh no,
Yes.
it's about 1 minute to the next.
Oh, okay. Yeah, play on.
So as the angels began to deliver this very amazing piece of science, D, even though he couldn't mathematically understand it, understood the value of the information. And as the system grew, as the angels became more intense and more complex, the whole working climaxed in something called the Tablet of Nalvaj. Dan? That's fine. That's all we need to show. We go back to Tablet of Nalvaj. Right there. Now, the Tablet of Nalvaj is one of the last of the Enochian tablets or seals to be delivered. And the angels specifically told them that this one contained the secret of alchemy. And of course, D didn't understand it mathematically. Kelly didn't understand it mathematically, but being the sort of person Kelly was, he just said, okay, let's give it a go. Let's see what's going to happen. And this was the basis of the science of alchemy. Now, with our more modern perspective, we can actually understand 24 cell 4D figure. It's the very first one. We can actually chart the Tablet of Nalvaj and make a very complex four-dimensional structure called the 24 cell. Now, in 3D, we have 5 platonic solids. In 4D, we have 6.
Now this is
there are analogs of the 5 in 3D, and then there's this figure, which is completely unique. There's nothing like it in 3D. There's nothing like it in 5, 6D, further on up. This is a 4D uniqueness. And what makes this unique is if you look at the
Do you see the patterns?
central
Yes.
cube here, it's a little hard to see because it's tilted. The whole figure turns inside out through the center of that cube without distorting. In other words, it's the same on the inside as it is on the outside, and it can rotate through itself and maintain self-similarity.
Pause it a little. This is a very obvious connection between language and geometry, right? Because you can name the vertices or the edges or even the faces, but here you could take it that the vertices have a name.
Yes, so you can apply the script to the shapes.
Exactly.
Mm.
So that this is a very flat connection between language and geometry.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, fascinating. All right.
let me see. This is number 7. What have I anchored? What have I thumbnailed on number 7? That's oh yeah. The I don't know if it's intentional, but he plays with between alien, extraterrestrial, and angel. Maybe that's also funny to just listen to how he dances around. Either the knowledge came from angelic beings or extraterrestrials. It's there's no difference.
So what the angels did is they sent the instructions, first of all, a language so we could communicate.
Do you see the pentagrammas?
Yes, I see the pentagrammas.
Okay, that's I wanted to go later on. I wanted to come back to it in this context.
And then they sent the instructions on how to build an astral internet, an astral radio, an astral communication set. So if you were a higher intelligence and you wanted to help out these little quick monkeys down here, the first thing you would do is teach them how to communicate with you, so you could give them more instructions. You wouldn't arrive and offer them a potato pancake and blow their minds, or you wouldn't take them and give them anal probes and check their DNA. That would violate free will. Free will is a constant in the universe. But you would send to the most brilliant mind on the planet. Anyone seen the old Day the Earth Stood Still? Michael Rene? Well, remember, Michael Rene wanted to go see the equivalent of Einstein. That's right. And that's exactly what the angels did. They looked for the brightest monkey mind on the planet, and they said, here, figure this out. So Dee was able to receive all this. Kelly, being a very sharp, practical guy, was able to use some of the science without understanding it. And now, 400 years later, we have the actual math to go, whoa, okay? Now, if we think about all the other ET, UFO encounters, the proof is lacking. We don't have any hard science. We don't have really a piece of an alien ship. You know, maybe in Area 51, who knows? But this is proof. When this was received in the 16th century, no one understood it and no one could understand it. The math did not exist. And the fact that in the last 70 years or so, we've developed the math that allows us to understand this, it's solid proof that Dee and Kelly were actually talking to a higher order of intelligence, and a vastly higher order of intelligence, an order of intelligence that comes from different dimensions, or at least works through higher dimensions. Okay.
So now we're going over to the pentagram.
The pentagram with the nesting. It's further down, further down. There it is. Right there. That one, no, one below it. Right? Now, have you ever wondered why all the witches and all the magicians use pentagrams? What the importance of a pentagram is, right? In 4D, the analog of a tetrahedron is called a pentatope. And a pentatope is a tetrahedron with another tetrahedron stuck on each of its four faces. So there are 5 pentatopes, 5 tetrahedrons in a pentatope. Now, if you took a pentatope and tilted it properly so that you could shine a light through it from 4D down to 3D, the resulting figure would be a pentagon pentagram. And the order in which we draw our pentagon, according to the law of attraction and repulsion, is actually the stacking order of the angles of the tetrahedron. So that when we draw an invoking pentagram, we're bringing energy from 4D into 3D. And when we draw a banishing pentagram, we're sending the energy of 3D back into 4D. In other words, unmanifest, manifest, manifest, unmanifest.
Do you remember in the first show that I showed we talked about the structure of the universe, right? And that it could be quote unquote mapped in several in the Platonic solids.
Yes.
Let me see. Oh, Blender has.
And he said that in the third dimension, in our dimension, you have 5 solids, and in the fourth, you have 6.
Yes, that's what he says in this show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting up the file of that show.
Okay.
Let me see. This one needs to go, and this one needs to come, and this one too. Oh wait, I must put it in. Must arrange that in StreamYard, right?
Mm-hmm.
let me see, stop screen, and then present, share screen, and then Blender. Oh, these every tab is one application. Let me see if I can. I have tons of tabs open, so I have to browse to the applications that I just opened. Oh, wait a minute. No, I got it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. It's
Right.
not full screen though, because I see there's a map on the side and like settings on the other side. So
Okay,
okay, there you go.
I can make those smaller.
Okay, now I can see it.
It's about this. If I switch on the render view, then it's kind of real lighting. Let me switch off the cube. So this and in this program is where I it all fell into place, right? So these programs start with a cube, and one day I just switch it on, and I was just fooling around, and I saw this. I saw these two in a cube. Let me switch the cube on again. In a cube, I saw these two pentagrams. Switch off. And what it is, it are two corners in a cube, but in this same cube, a tetragram fits also in the same cube, right? So it's all in a cube, but the association with the Earth is one member of the solids that is not mentioned, and that's the sphere. And so now you have a sphere, you have a tetragrammatron, and a cube, all touching the same spot, right? So this spot, for example, the North Pole or the South Pole, are spots where various maps of vacuum, maps of space, methods to map space come together on these points, right? So yeah, that's looking back to the first episodes in this series, because this is a series, and we're puzzling to find the similarities in. Oh, was it shared this way? It wasn't completely full screen then.
No, it was 3/4, and then you still had you on the
All
side.
right,
Yeah.
all right, all right. So it was large enough, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and Koku, the reason why I say they don't know is because for me, I think that angels don't. I don't know. They don't really have bodies like corporeal bodies. I don't know if they're human. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, that's why I say I don't know. But they're certainly, spiritual. There's a spiritual world. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So this was a clear association with the set off with where we started. So this is a clear reference. Excuse me, I'm translating in my head. This is a clear reference to the first episode of this little series, or maybe it's going to be a large series. We're just every episode is one piece of the puzzle. So yeah, geometry and language have a connection, and that's what he's speaking about. So yeah, why the pentagrammer? Let me jump right back to if you don't mind. I'm jumping right back to the beginning of of the question, why the pentagram?
Yes.
In 4D, the analog of a tetrahedron is called a pentatope. And a pentatope is a tetrahedron with another tetrahedron stuck on each of its four faces. So there are 5 pentatopes, 5 tetrahedrons in a pentatope. Now, if you took a pentatope and tilted it properly so that you could shine a light through it from 4D down to 3D, the resulting figure would be a pentagon pentagram. And the order in which we draw our pentagram pentagon, according to the law of attraction and repulsion, is actually the stacking order of the angles of the tetrahedron. So that when we draw an invoking pentagram, we're bringing energy from 4D into 3D. And when we draw a banishing pentagram, we're sending the energy of 3D back into 4D. In other words, unmanifest, manifest, manifest, unmanifest. And as you can see from this diagram, each of the shaded regions, they're shaded to give you the idea of how the tetrahedron is stacking. But if you stack them properly, this is what you form. Okay, there's the pentatope. So when you're drawing a pentagram in the air or using it as a sigil, you're ordering energy from higher, more subtle 4-dimensional energy down into 3D, and then taking whatever energy you like from 3D.
I'll let it play to the
running
next
it back up to 4D.
to the next thumbnail.
Now again, this is a traditional method of doing very complex science that we only begin to understand now. And one of the basis of this science could not be clearly understood until we had a formulation of a mathematical 4th dimension. But every witch worth her salt knows how to use the pentagram. Okay? Go back to the order, Dan. Yes. He wants that one. Well, these shaded pieces, this is banishing, this is invoking. So the order in which you stack and draw these lines that outline the edge, that forms the invoking or banishing pattern of the pentagram, moving it from 3D up to 4D.
Can I say something as well?
How are we doing on time?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, and he just asked
About
that.
10 minutes.
So in terms of the banishment and the unbanishment and so on, there's the simplest way to start thinking about, the changing is transformational mathematics. So geometry, you study shapes, but you can also transform shapes into other shapes, or transform the way a shape is. You can take a line and change the angle and so on. So there's transformational and rotational properties that you can apply to, to different figures. So in any case, this whole idea is not just to take lines upon lines and to change them. So it's like you're wrapping it around itself, you're transforming it and like collapsing it and then radiating it back again. And this is a connection I'm trying to make between geometry and language, because you're almost casting a spell where in one sense, you're going from higher to lower. And then when he said going from the 3rd to the 4th dimension, and then in the other way, you're going from, lower to higher. So it's these steps, and it's steps that you have to take in order to transform, from one dimension to another. So if you want to look into more, there's a whole branch of mathematics called manifold. So it's folding and how you can change shapes into other shapes based on certain formulas, and it's just very interesting. So the same way that you can invoke things or put a spell using language, the chants is the same way that you can change reality based on transcending or descending from 3D to 4D.
Alrighty. So what I see is like so space can be mapped in platonic solids, right? And uh, what I discovered, the aha moment that I had in these 3D programs was that you can that a pentagram is a gateway from one way to map vacuum, to map space, to another way to map vacuum, right? From cubes to tetragrammatrons, for
Mm-hmm.
example, right?
Yes.
And so the pentagram is the gateway between those two. And in that first episode of this mini series, James Fura, he also showed that the the mix between um, uh, the tone ladder, the major and the minor tone ladder, was also a pentagram. So there was a gateway between two ladders,
Mm-hmm.
two tone ladders, which in space. Uh, in the space form formed a pentagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, the pentagram is a gateway.
Ah,
And
and you remember the ladder, the steps of Jacob's ladder, that would could also be like musical steps, because one of the ways
yes,
that they felt that you could access the divine was through music. So even when David was dancing around and they condemned him, he said, you're praising God, and Psalms was actually not, a lot of those were not meant to be read, they were actually meant to be sung or chanted. But
yes,
yes, so mhm.
yeah, that
Portal.
oh man, that was good. But that's on another axis.
Yes.
It deals with the same matter, but it's on the axis of fractals.
Yes.
And any of the platonic solids are fractals of themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I understood it right. Indeed, yeah, interesting, yes. I'm sort of blown away, actually. There's a there's a good aha moment. We're going to Earth is a zip code. We are at the where are we? Okay, I'm gonna continue this one because the next point is close.
I don't want to really get that deep into it. Um, let's go on with the ETs. Click on that one.
Oh yeah, of course. The question from the public is something about dimensions. That's also how I think about it. Pentagrams. Excuse me, I'm constantly saying pentagrams. Pentagrams are also a factor in. I saw it a lot with marabouts in West Africa. Pentagrams are probably are also a gateway from other worlds to this one, for example. And maybe those other worlds, the difference between our world and other worlds are maybe the platonic solids in which they are mapped, if you understand what I mean. So another dimension could be this same space, but mapped in something else than a cube or a tetragram. You follow me, or am I babbling?
No, no, no. Since our world is defined by our, five platonic solids, a different world could have a whole completely different way of mapping their own reality. So, we might not be able to conceive it, but they're able to conceive, like you said, their six solids would encompass all of ours, plus more. So they can, it's sort of like if you have a cube versus a line, the cube is contains the lines, but the lines does not really know what a cube looks like in a way. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting way of putting it.
That's okay.
Yeah, man. Okay, let's go to the Earth is a zip code. That's where we're heading.
Yeah, that trajectory, the one right above it,
Earth's zip code. Sorry.
right there. Now, how do higher order intelligences in the galaxy know where we are? It's because the Earth has a zip code. And that zip code is based on your good old Kabbalistic tree of life.
There we go.
If you take a tree of life, we lost it. Okay, that's interesting. Yes, there you go. If you take the tree of life and you project it outward onto a sphere roughly 1 light year in any direction from the sun, you get in one direction something like this. Now imagine that we're filling this in all 4 directions so that the central pillar of the tree is unique and the side pillars overlap, and we have 26 circles. Okay, and if you can go to the other one. No, it's further up. Yes, that one. Yeah, it's hard to see without my glasses. There you go. Now, this is the northern hemisphere. This is the southern hemisphere. And if we just simply from Earth diagram this pattern, there are stars in each of these circles. Now, this circle right here is at the ecliptic, north pole of the ecliptic, and it appears from our telescope-based ideas that there is no star there. However, in the last 20 years, we've discovered, deep space astronomy, that there is a star right in the center. And that's in the coils of Draco, in the very still point in the center of Draco. And it's a very long way away. And the science fiction inspired scientist who came up with it as a joke, sort of, I'm at my most serious when I'm joking, the angel says, named it Arrakis or Dune. Funny people. So these, where the 6 are, those are the bright stars that are attributed to the cherubic beings. They're Regulus, Vega, etc. Those are the bright stars that are right on the ecliptic, right on the equator of the zodiac. And then there are stars in each of these other locations. Okay? And if you simply want to find Earth, then you find where all those stars come together. So Earth's zip code in a galactic sense is this projected tree of life. In other words, if you're traveling intergalactic spaces and you're not flying in a tin can at sub-relativistic speeds, but you're actually teleporting, traveling fast, traveling in consciousness, then you better know where you're going because it's hard to stop, right? So in your little personal teleportation spaceship, you plug.
Well, there you have it. The association of geometry and space. Thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at space, it's nothingness that is filled with things. Like even to imagine space, you cannot really know what it is. It is this whole vacuum, and we can only imagine space as filled with things. Like even if we try to imagine, nothingness in outer space, we can only see it when there's little lights of, of planets and stars and all that. So space is almost like darkness. You know what it is, but you cannot really, you know, you can describe its absence. It's an absence of something, but it cannot really be imagined without the presence of something else. So
If there were not no heavenly bodies, it would be like closing your eyes, right?
yeah, but even when you close your eyes, you don't see nothing, you still see like little lights and patterns and things like that. So even in the nothingness, there's still something, and I don't know what somebody without complete sight would see, but when you close your eyes, there's still,
There you have it. That's what you see when you close your eyes. All those happenings. That's what caused the Big Bang.
wow. Yeah.
From that came the aha moment that space and existed, and from the moment after the aha moment, that you could look back to the aha moment. So there was that same moment there was another aha moment about time,
Mm-hmm.
and so the aha moment about time and space is actually constant.
So, I mentioned the Fermi paradox. That is, that's the question that everybody's saying, that if we know all this, if we can explore space and we've looked around, why is it that, like you said, there's no evidence for for other life outside of Earth, not even in our closest planets, not even in nearby galaxies. It seems like, in the vastness of space, we are, we're just here alone. So, that was the question. And Fermi said if there were creatures or beings that were of a higher technology, he wasn't talking in a spiritual sense, just beings that were more technologically advanced than us as mankind, they would have been able to reach us by now. But he says that, firstly, that the angels, like, even if the angels were angels, aliens, however one, something that is otherworldly in a way. So that's why he ties it with the meteors, that the meteors brought not only this special substance that could change and transform and transmute earthly materials, but it also brought these beings that you could communicate with. So, this whole idea of these other people who are advanced than us, if they were out there, firstly, it would be the problem of language. In the movies, you always see as if the aliens just come in and they know English, we know their language, and there's an instant translation. But even in human beings on Earth, it's still a bubble. There's still some limitations from language. So imagine the difference between an earthly species and one that is out of this world. That would be almost impossible. I think the closest movie that came to showing that difference is in that movie, The Rivals, which when the aliens came, I can't remember if that's the right one, but when they came, they came with they would like splash this stains in the air or something, and then that would be a meaning. So the humans had to learn how to decipher what those different blobs and symbols were, because they just didn't know. So
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that one in the park.
ah
There was this silent spaceship in the park,
yes,
almost vertical.
yes.
Yeah,
And
and they look like sort of octopuses, and they were trying to communicate with these rings, these rings of
yeah,
smoke. Yeah,
and
yeah.
and so what he is saying in this one is that it would not necessarily be in words and symbols that we know. It would probably be something geometrical, like the peace sign. Not necessarily, I'm just using like a simple thing. But
Yeah,
if you could say, the language of mathematics, those kinds of symbols would transcend any kind of civilization, anybody, because there are people think that you have to learn how to read and write in order to communicate. The Egyptians had a whole different way of learning. And maybe many civilizations, they built, magnificent buildings, and they had no, written language. So there had to be another way of communicating. And geometry is the visual. Geometry is like the marriage of mathematics and art, because you can see, the beauty of mathematics in the patterns, in, even this
yes,
whole,
and
Fibonacci, you can see
and
it
and, and the
mathematically.
monoliths and the monoliths define themselves just like a cube or a pentagram, for example, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
so
and
so
even
what
in
is
the,
written language worth?
sorry.
So what is written language worth?
Hmm. Well, unfortunately, I think it's the only way that we know how to communicate. So it would be difficult for us to know how to communicate in, in patterns or to get that effect. But so that's why you have to transmit. You have to almost ascend into the fourth dimension and also descend back into the third to almost see it. But the only way that you can see it, and this is the whole rotation and transformation and the manifolds is also about depicting one kind of shape into another. So when he talks about changing and rotating the pentagram, you do that in mathematics nowadays. You can render it and you create shadows. You can create shadows of like 5D dimensions in 3D and 4D and so on. So it's a way of rendering one shape into something um you know uh, uh, something understandable in a different way. So yeah, I'll stop
Mm.
there.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the link in
Oh
the
yeah, and go through the comments. Yeah, Zuli's in the house. Hey Zuli. He's like back. Oh, no, 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 no. Look, let me say something about what Zuli said about we've been here for years. It's not that we could not speak to angels. We had our own different way of knowledge and of expressing it and of speaking to to the higher realms, to the higher dimensions. For example, some people used trance. They used the music. They used certain incantations, which he does talk about a little bit here. But yes, so people use different ways of accessing or getting in touch with those higher realms. So
yeah.
mathematics is just one way to describe it, but it's not the only one.
The link is in the chat, folks. And I also I wanted to say something about it, and I wanted to jump into the regular biting the teeth about yeah, white folks acting as if the universe started since they are around. But since because of 10, I remembered stuff. I remembered stuff. You made me remember 10 what I witnessed in West Africa in the Casamance, South Senegal, and I've seen it all, right? I've seen marabouts at work, but I've also seen uh, stuff that people call extraterrestrial or UFO, right? And so I talked about it with context there, and they said, well, yeah, uh, we have airports here that have no planes. Things fly in and things fly out, but it are not planes, right? And what he was trying to say is that marabouts, or to cut a long story short, let me put it that way. To cut a long story short, some of these marabouts have contacts with other beings, be it extraterrestrials or angels. Does that answer your question, Zuli?
I hope so. I hope he can get
Yeah,
join us.
on my island, it's even worse. We have a canyon that we call Janelle, and Janelle is window, and that's, yeah, window could be seen as another word for gateway, right? So
Yes.
in that canyon, because it's one big mountain rift, and rain has cut canyons out of it, and that's where we live, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this particular canyon, that's one of the places where you can find ancient scripts in the rocks, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I've been there, and it looks like Coptic to me. But anyway, in that canyon, people can see lights jumping from one side to the other, and that's another Carlos Castaneda reference. Ten,
Yes, yes.
you
Carlos
remember that
Castaneda.
he became one of the lights? He jumped in, and
Yes,
he was the canyon, right? He
yes.
was the canyon expected to hit the ground. But anyway, similar things as described in Carlos Castaneda happened there. And also on the Cape Verde Islands, we have a phenomenon that we call knilinje. And knilinje means comes down to thin limbs. And the description of a knilinje is what in the West is called the graze.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So do people look at them as
witchcraft
as good,
or
bad?
higher science, witchcraft, angel, demons. Yeah.
But do they look at them as good forces, bad forces?
Since we've been heavily Christianized, it's not good. But what I saw in the Casamance is that they have contact. They contact us and we contact them.
Wow. And okay, so is this part of the spirituality and religion, or is this something that is outside of it?
Well, in South Senegal, it's part of it, yes. And the Christian, since Cape Verde is very Christian, it's spooky, and there's also descriptions of abductions, but it's told like they take you and they give you back without a soul.
Whoa! Wow. Okay.
Or something like that. They say, yeah, you won't be the same again. Yeah, of course, you're a farmer. You're a farmer, a poor farmer. You've hardly touched a television, and then you're taken away in some kind of high-tech ship, and they put you back. Yeah, of course you're shocked. Of course you're traumatized, right?
Yep. That would do the best person in. I see we have guests. Hi, Azuli.
Yes, and where's Goku? He was here also.
Oh, what happened?
I don't know. Come back.
Okay, yes.
Share with us your thoughts. Azuli,
Yes.
welcome. Welcome to your crew, the Black Pentagrammers.
Uh-oh, what's happening? I cannot see.
Maybe you're muted.
Azuli, unmute.
Oh, I can't unmute the guest because they chose to mute themselves.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll just wait for him then. Oh, and,
Goku is in.
Yes, Habadi. I don't hear him either.
Are you talking, Goku?
What is going on? Okay, just to let you all know. Okay, in the private chat, if you can you all hear us?
Yes, if you
I can hear.
Oh, okay.
All right, Goku.
Now we can hear you. And you, and Koku.
I don't know about Goku. That's me. I don't know.
Okay. Yes, we said okay. You're good. We were just asking about about him. But okay, if you can hear us, it's good. Go ahead.
No, I'm trying to understand. This to me, when I hear it, I'm just like not even on the same page. I don't the pentagram or what they talking about. My question is, I don't know if you answered it already because I had stepped out. How do these people get to decipher this? Why do they get to decipher this and we don't even know anything about this?
I don't know. I don't know if we don't even know about this, bro. I think we know about this. That's what I was trying to say about what I've seen in the Casamance.
In the where?
In the south of Senegal.
But what I'm saying is, if we know, okay, the number one thing is, what has this guy done with this thing he's trying to say? If we can understand it, how come this hasn't been passed on?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll go through a short history of how he said that it got to Dyer and all these people. So he said that the first people to discover it were the Egyptians that they know of. Obviously, Egypt is a continuation of Nubia and all those things. So when he said that there was no gold in Egypt, so either Egypt had to have created, transmuted, the salt and other the silica that came from the silica glass that came from meteorites. My opposite hypothesis was that there were gold mines in Nubia, but that's to be verified, one way or another. So that's how he said it. He said that the first people to have that knowledge was actually the Egyptians, and then through relations and so on, the knowledge by the time it came to after the invasions and so on, by the time it came to the Arabs, the knowledge had somehow, they had known about how to make it, but they had lost the knowledge of the higher metals to lower metals. So they knew the ingredients, but not how to to include the final ingredient. So it was a half process, and then through different people had that knowledge, but there was one particular fellow who discovered it from I think he discovered it, some of the tablets were hidden in Jerusalem, and they found the secret as well as the material, the philosopher's stone, the philosopher's stone. And then John Dyer, yeah, he probably got his knowledge from the Arab scholars or the Persians or the Moors or whoever, but he got that knowledge, and so he wanted to learn how to transmute it. And then through different experiments, even Newton was in on it. A lot of people tried to get to the secret, and for a long time it was in Jerusalem. Then the Muslims got a hold of it. Then it went back to Egypt, but this time under the caliphate, the Islamic caliphate. Then it went back to, part of it was in Jerusalem, part of it was, so it's gone back and forth. But the first people to use it, and then eventually turned into the mummy dust when the Europeans discovered the mummies in Egypt, and then when they took it back to Egypt, I'm sure you remember that there was the whole story about them eating or grinding mummies into their food. So that one of the reasons for that was because the mummies contained the gold dust, which actually preserved the bodies and transmuted the biological stuff into a more permanent and enduring substance.
You believe
Okay.
that?
Believe what? I'm just telling you the summary of what he said. So that's how he connects it with Egypt and the Europeans. But go ahead.
So, so if they were able to transmute that to decipher that, so is that the reason that they're doing what they're doing now? Like they have all this power? I don't understand.
Well,
Yeah,
when you
yeah, it
find,
could
go
be,
ahead.
because this John D. A lot of these names that are named, they played a big part in forming the world. Yes, indeed, especially this John D. type. He transmuted he transmuted the language English.
I mean, this is like this sounds like I don't know. I mean, well, I'm gonna say maybe I'm not. My computer's not ready to accept this because this sounds like too abstract for me to understand or to even grasp. Because to me, that sounds like you. So if we go and eat them right now, is it gonna be transmuted to us?
Oh
Like,
no, 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 no,
I don't
no.
understand. Like,
No, it's this. What they managed to do was to find the power and the secret. The secret was in in being able to understand the higher geometry that allowed you to change. Okay, let's say this. If you're able to forget maybe transmutation for a second, let's be more scientific. The race, the atomic race in the 1910s, during that whole quantum stuff, it was to produce an energy, a cheap and destructive form of energy, which led to the Manhattan Project, the nuclear fusion and fission and so on. So if you discover the secret to the atomic structure of the universe, then you discover also the way to destroy or to create. So they went back to, to the source of it, and they discovered, some of the secrets of Egypt. Then they went around taking all the secrets from the world. And that's, partly what helped them, both in the occultic and in the technical way, to be able to rise above their deficiencies. It's not that they had all the secrets, is that because they were able to go and dig it up from different places. And he talks also about the Knights Templar when they went to Jerusalem. And that was, some of the places where they had hidden, the texts and the knowledge and so on of these things. So when they go, they go and collect knowledge and bring it back, and that's also what sparks the the so-called Enlightenment and Industrial Revolution afterwards. So yes, they did.
So eventually it started with us, Izuli. Eventually it started with us, but this little history that he tells is from a moment long after that they started to encounter slash recover the knowledge, trying to recover the knowledge. That must be said. But let's pass the mic to Goku.
Peace, everyone. How y'all doing tonight?
Okay.
All right.
Wonderful.
How are you?
Good. I'm glad I was able to catch you guys. I was a few minutes late, but glad I was able to catch you guys all the same. I like the kind of topics you guys cover. In the words of Fermi, the Fermi paradox, where is everybody? I will say this though. One of the things you get from these kinds of conversations that this white boy is doing in the presentation is you understand something. You understand that knowledge is worthwhile pursuing. One of the things I notice with black folks is we got to go through all kind of questioning. Well, why is this important? And what does this mean? And then we kind of throw our hands up and we leave it to white folks to go and figure it out, right? But if they are on the hunt for some knowledge, some information, you need to be on the same hunt too, because there's something to it. Why are they always digging up in and around Egypt all the time? What is it that they're trying to really understand? What ancient understanding are they trying to finally conquer? All these things are important questions, but oftentimes our folks are on some, well, how could they have understood this? Or why, what does it matter? And the thing is, you have to be in it to win it. That's an old saying we used to say back home when I used to play basketball. You have to be in it to win it. And a lot of us, we're not really willing to be in it. Does the guy know everything he's talking about? Probably not. But he's pursuing, or him and others are pursuing these things. Like when the guy talked about the tree of life and you project it onto the surface of a planet, a 1 light year. I mean, that's fascinating that someone even thought about that shit. That's fascinating in itself that someone thought about. Then to realize that there's 30, I think he said it was 26 structures or something when you do. It's just like, but we on the other hand, we're just sitting back and just twiddling our thumbs. There's knowledge out there, and I hope that's what people get from this, that go and pursue the knowledge. And I hope also people get that all the knowledge won't come from black folks. Because why? Black folks ain't pursuing all the knowledge. And so you have to listen to different sources and different things and entertain certain ideas. I mean, that's what this whole life is about. And that's what they understand, that we lost. So we were the first ones doing this. But we lost that understanding. Go ahead.
But clearly, yes, sorry to interrupt you. Clearly the knowledge, and that's what I was trying to hint. Clearly the knowledge is still there, because in those villages in the south of Senegal, those poor villages, with half mud huts, houses with metal board roofs, over there they are yeah. I mean, I have issues speaking it out, but it's what they said, and I take it for truth. they communicate with these other beings, be it angels, demons, or extraterrestrials. So it's still there.
So my
Yeah.
question is, go ahead, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Uzui.
So I'm gonna say this. My question is, I no. First thing I wanted to say is that I ordered a book because with the Endenkra symbols or whatever, right? And then the guy, the book I purchased, he spoke about these the tree of life and the thing that looked like the lotus flower and all of that. It's he there's something in the book he's trying to use the symbol to superimpose them on the tree of life or whatever. But to me, it was very abstract. What I'm saying is you can't just jump from what we have now to go jump into these shapes and sound. This The human mind is not able to be like, oh, I'm gonna go from this and then jump to this abstract right here. So whether we want to say that, I don't think black people have the motivation to do it, maybe because the steps are missing. And Jose, you just said that the people in Senegal doing it. They're doing it for what?
But I'm sorry, but where I'm on is exactly that. So the similar the name of this series is the similarities between the human mind and the universe, right? And that's actually the quest of this little series. I'm putting each episode is a piece of the puzzle, and as you saw in this episode, there was a clear reference to the opening episode, which was all around geometry, and there's definitely a higher science. And why should you do it? It's to restore the manual to the human mind. Because in the meanwhile, it has become the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita.
But
You know,
but, but the problem is the Bible and the
but
Quran
it
is
was it was it was the manual to the human mind, if you ask me.
but the thing is the Quran, the Bible, all those things are
It's a
more
mess.
are more. I could understand. I could connect more with that than I could connect with that.
Yeah, I believe this is behind that.
Yeah, but okay, it's just like the same thing as they say. The 12 disciples or the zodiac sign, this and that, and the third. There's something missing. You like, how do you connect that? How do you connect behind?
But
How do
listen,
Well,
you?
I would say this, when he was talking about the so-called schism between Rudolph, the king, and the Pope. So with the Catholic Church, or most religions, the emphasis has been on believing the right thing. This whole hereticism, or condemning people as infidels or pagans and all this, is because it's not because those people were worse or better or more moral, or it's because they didn't believe. So it wasn't even about morality, it was mostly about belief. Whereas, when these people went to Jerusalem and to all these other places, and they started living Europe and traveling, they realized that the world was a much bigger place than than the Catholic Church had led them to believe, and that the knowledge was not just restricted to to European shores. And so they went forth and they had a real hunger for knowledge, and not just knowledge for getting things, but getting, firstly, making money, becoming prosperous, and conquering other people. Whereas the Pope, they wanted a sort of belief in the infallibility of the Pope, and the power down below here, and belief in the afterlife, and so on. So for them, they felt that the emphasis should be on understanding the world, instead of in just believing in the outside, in striving towards something better. Now, you could say, well, people cannot relate to that, and it's more complicated, and so on and so forth. But religions are also very complicated. The reason why they look simple is because you're used to thinking or believing in one thing or another. But a whole 66 books of the Bible, is it 66 or 69? Yeah. You have to believe all that. You have to believe in, rising, whether symbolically or actually, somebody, your original sin, prophets, miracles, resurrections, future, apocalypse, and all that. To somebody who's never read it, that sounds crazy and complex. So I would say that, one way of looking at it is not so much even in terms of, European, is only in terms of whether you're going to seek knowledge or pursue belief. And even though they did not succeed, they did from time to time, talk about the importance of knowledge of a simple belief.
Yes, you heard the fella say that John Dee finally found a way out of magic into mathematics, into math. You remember that piece?
Yes. And it's not that they didn't believe. In fact, a lot of these people had, they both believed and pursued knowledge. And I would say, the most known, the best example is that would be Newton, or actually all of them. They had this deep philosophical attachment to knowledge, and they felt like, the best way to worship nature was actually to study and understand it. Now, obviously, some people felt that after understanding it, you should then conquer it, but that was why they felt that, their pursuit of knowledge was not necessarily against their theological leanings.
Yeah,
So
and all these guys had as a hobby or something like that. They all studied Egyptology. The Newtons, the Teslas, they all had a sidekick, and it was Egyptology.
I just want to interject real quick too. Uh um, believing in Jesus is abstract. This notion that a virgin was impregnated, right, gave birth to this guy who later on in life was murdered, right, died, rose again, right, then disappeared and said, "Hey, I'm going to go build a place for y'all over yonder." Right? In my father's house, there's many mansions. Like that is abstract to me because a lot of that doesn't make sense. But anyway, the point I wanted to make is the real point I wanted to make is one of our problems is we want the kind of easy finding, right? Josie, you might want to mute your mic while you're coughing in the back. There, I know it's your show, but I'm just saying. Um, but we want the clean, ordered steps that takes us to this final conclusion, and oftentimes it's really not like that. Oftentimes it's simply you got to go digging, you got to go finding bits of information and crossing it with other bits of information and filling in some blanks sometimes. That's just what it is. I mean, we weren't there when all this shit was created, so all we could do is follow the little clues and come to our conclusions. That's the best. That's the best we can do. You know that reference that Tam put in the chat, the Fermi paradox. That's an interesting paradox because that was from that was named after a guy who was in a conversation with some other scientists, and the dude just people were talking about, well, there must be life and the possibilities of life out there in the universe, and this dude blurted out, "Yo, where is everybody then? Like, if Earth is only but so old, or if this what's this called, the Milky Way, if this is only but so old, and there's older galaxies and older suns, and the with the expectation that there must be Earth-like planets in those suns, solar systems, so there must be intelligent life, and the idea that if you could travel through space, it will take say 1,000,000 years to traverse the whole Milky Way. Then where is everybody? So you have to begin somewhere in this quest for knowledge. And the point I'm going to land my plane on is these other people are trying to find the information, and again, we're just sitting back, waiting to be told what they found, and that's a bad situation to be in anytime. When you got to wait for another man to do work and hope that he's benevolent to turn around and give you the information, that's bad. And what's so bad about this is that a lot of their studying really comes from the land of the blacks. It comes from us, and we have very little impetus to go and pick up what our ancestors put down all those years ago. We're not really going in mass, independent of other people, and trying to find this information and make these connections ourselves. That's a huge problem that we have. So I'll land my plane there. I'll listen from the chat.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good points. Good points, and that's actually the answer to Zuli's question. Yes, black people are doing it. We're doing it now, right? We're asking questions now. We're trying to put pieces of the puzzle together, and yeah, the title of the series is the equivalence between the universe and the human mind. And in any way that you put it, language is involved, because what we discover, we name it. We give things a name. And I actually think that that's what's being that's what being shared with us in Genesis. So when God says, "Let there be light," I believe that's when our consciousness decided to name a phenomenon light, right? And it's a beautiful way to describe the moment that humanity got enlightened, right? So it's a heavy poetry to describe how humanity became conscious by naming things, right? Because God said, let that be light, and He saw that it was good to name things, right? So there's a direct connection between the mind and the universe, because every single thing that we have discovered and that we will discover, we will name it, right? And there's the connection, there's the aha moment in our mind every time that we name something, every time that we discover something, that we bump into something, we will name it. And voila, awareness, voila, consciousness, right? So there's a little trace to what these books may have been.
I'll also end with this. I agree with everything that Coco said about, our need to, to be open to the knowledge and to actually examine what we seem to think makes sense, and a lot of what makes sense is not really that sensible. But another thing is this, that like the guy was saying, I don't believe in everything, but what he mentioned was that the secret was forgotten by the Africans, by the Egyptians. So unfortunately, that's where a lot of us are. We have forgotten our spirituality, our tradition, our history, our identity. We have forgotten a lot, So, and
I,
also, a lot of our history, a lot of our knowledge and information is in other people's hands. Not just, in the British. He talked about, one of those artifacts is in the British Museum. One of them is in the Mecca Kaaba. One of them is in Egypt, but Egypt is now controlled. Anyway, it's not only just that. They also went into all of Africa, destroying religious, symbols, taking, sacred artifacts, taking, the traditional healers and spiritualists. So a lot of our, the information that we knew from a long time ago, and we know that people in the past knew a lot more, especially, spiritually connecting, and, this whole spirituality, people may call it superstition, whatever, but they were more, spiritually, based and communally so than people, in the modern times. So a lot of knowledge may have been lost, and unfortunately, some of it is still in a lot of it in, like the Vatican has one of the largest, if there's ever a Library of Alexandria, it's either in the Vatican or not even the Smithsonian has that much, old text and information. And not even that. And the British Museum has one of the largest, collections of African art. So if we were to, that knowledge, we either lost it or was taken from us, but that's one of the only ways we have to retrieve it. Even African history, apart from Chancellor Williams, a lot of that knowledge was done by European archaeologists. Now you have to go, rifling through that with irony and, as your eyes askance, but at the same time, yes, they the same way they took our knowledge and preserved it is the same way that they have taken ours and kept it.
Yeah, they dig our shit, and we just stand there, or we are happy to have a job, and the job is carry their bags. You have to imagine, every country or every language space has his television scientist digging our shit. So in the Hispanic world, you have a handful of names that always come up with UFOs or pyramids and megaliths all over the world. In every language and every country has its own show. So imagine how many people are digging in our shit, and we are just happy that they come dig our shit, because then one of us has a job by carrying their bags. That's where we are. As Bitter Medicine, as Koku says, we have to get in the game, and we are in the game now, Zuli.
I don't know if we're in the game, but for us for us have to forgotten this. How do you forget this unless it wasn't serving you? How do you forget to pass the tradition on to your peoples, peoples, unless something happened? Like I don't understand. Like I'm just being honest. Like this thing to me is so abstract. I have no motivation to be like, oh, let me go sit this. And I think most black people, even the black people who are untouched by these colonies, the small amount, are they doing that? Like, like the only person I heard that used to talk to something similar, they said the Dogon people. And what's that guy? Oh, the black guy. He just passed away. Mokru. He was kind of fat. He used to wear glasses. Old African guy, but I forgot his name. But
Yeah,
what
yeah.
what's
I know
gonna
what you mean.
hold on? What's gonna motivate people in America and the Caribbean, even in Africa? What's the motivation if there's a page missing? Oh, they're going to do it. They're going to do this. So if this they're doing the research, they doing the research to find out the knowledge to do what? To keep conquering us? If some black people know the knowledge and they're not passing it on, they're not trying to um infuse show it to us, because Goku said, "Oh, people, you people, nothing is gonna be easy." Yo, people gotta wake up every morning to go to work. People gotta feed themselves. People gotta do all of that. That man that's doing that right now, that thing, he probably got mad money. He probably got mad people supporting him, and that's why he did that. And it's not all white people that are doing that. I'm just saying, like, there's
Now,
something missing.
But you just answered your own question. It's not all of them doing that. You don't need, everyone to be, especially on these subjects. Okay, without, we lost somebody. Okay, so without getting occultic, let's just apply knowledge like scientific knowledge. You don't need everyone in society to know science. In fact, most people, I would say, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, 90% of people don't really know how 90% of the things that they use work or come about. So you don't need people to have, even when you talk about John Dee, Shakespeare and Dye and all these people, this is esoteric knowledge. This was not something that you could just go and pick up in the streets. In fact, we talked about Kelly and how he was tortured by Rudolph, the same Rudolph who had this dislike for the Catholic Church. He also wanted his own power. So there is a lot of power in knowledge. Knowledge is not just knowing something, it's actually using it. But in order to have power, you have to have knowledge first of all. So Kelly refused to give the secret to Power because he felt that Power having access to truth or to the secret to this power, that was going to corrupt them. So he felt that no, he had to protect the secret. So this is not something that is for everyone. Oh, are you going to be believed? Even when you talk about Christianity and all these religions, the first thing that you have to realize is that they were not preached to a bunch. The people were not gathered together and told these things. The people who discovered Jesus's resurrected body was 2 women, or Peter and John, or 12 his disciples, and then they went and told everybody else and so on. So these things are not usually for public consumption. It's a few people who get together, who understand it, and they don't even have to understand all the aspects of it. In a society, there are people who understand the technical aspect, people who understand the musical or mathematical aspect. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
But at the end of the day, okay, so we go back. I'm just saying, this is like, I get what we're trying to do, but this, like I said, I'm not in the page yet. This is too abstract for me. But I wanted to say, like, the people who they got it from. The question is, why did you give it to them? And then number two, if you're more knowledgeable, how did they use your knowledge to subdue you and put you right under dirt? Like,
Maybe it's me, but your volume went down.
Yeah, I did go down a bit.
I can't hear you. Hello?
You're very far away.
Oh, can you hear me? I'm gonna come back in. I'm gonna come back in.
Yeah, so that's it. We're the quest is for understanding and going direct to the source, and that's the mind slash consciousness slash the creation, quote unquote. And the creation was that aha moment that we realized that we were there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that this knowledge, even the one that we have, it's still incomplete because we have not gotten the full spectrum. That's why people approach it from different ways. Some people have an idea about what the truth is, but they are unable to express it in a way that people can understand. And so, with John Dee and the mathematics, he was trying to make people understand something of a higher realm of consciousness and of 3D of reality. But he could only, draw the picture, but he did not have the mathematical formula to express it, the way that we know it now. So now we can combine, the formulas in mathematics and,
So, but then, what are you gonna do with that formula?
You're going to create worlds. You're going to create machines. You're going to make life, better. You're going to understand nature and learn how to cure diseases.
Make life. Are you saying right now that the technology right now, okay, the technology that we have right now actually is taking us further away from the Earth that we were prior. You drive, you on the phone, you're not connected to the Earth no more like you used to be. Or if you, what technology is really taking us more away from the soil. So how using this is, what are we, unless you,
Okay. So the fight is over this whole thing of knowledge. Let's say that we had the key to knowledge. Let's say the Egyptians had the key to knowledge, and one way or another, we don't know how it happened, but they lost it. They lost it, to the Arabs. They lost it to the Europeans. They lost it, and so they lost it. So these other people took this key and they used it to create things and to conquer. So, this knowledge is not just you just knowing it just to know. You're actually using it for whatever purpose you choose. Now, when you look at Egypt, they used it. Yes, they might use it to conquer, but they also use it to create this elaborate statues. So it depends on what you want to do with the power. If you want to just create a monolith and create a tower of Bible that people can just go and build, and that's another thing. There was the ladder to heaven, Jose, and then there was also the Tower of Babel. It was not originally supposed to be a multiplicity of languages. They were actually trying to create, one language and to go up to. No, it was at the time when there was only one language, and they were trying to build, the tower to heaven. They were actually trying to get to heaven with the tower. So so the knowledge is not just knowledge, just pure knowledge. It's knowledge that you people can use to either build themselves or to destroy other people. So if that is what is being used to destroy us, we need to know firstly how it works and how we can work within it, or how we can harness our that kind of power. So yeah, that's the whole thing, that the knowledge. And it was not just knowledge of of the occult and all this. It was also knowledge of of the pre-scientific principles behind nature. Now we knew those principles, but we acted in a different way. Our relationship with nature was not one of like the technology, which is used to almost conquer nature and put it as a almost in the service of mankind. What we did with that power was to actually get within nature and to get closer to nature instead of conquering it like it's being done right now. So if we as Africans had any inclination towards making things right, we would take back the power and rewrite the wrongs of the world. But since we're not interested in power or in knowledge, other people are going to take our power and our knowledge and use it against us, or just use it to destroy us. That's one of the reasons. If these things were not of
Or
any
destroy everything and us along with it.
exactly, that as well. If there was no power or reason behind it, if it was just superstition, then there was no reason why the missionaries would ban African religions, and no reason why they would forbid the slaves from practicing their religions and their music. If it was just nonsense and all that, they knew there was something in it, so they had to stop, prevent Africans or from worshiping, or they had to take it for themselves, or do both. You can destroy something and still take it at the same time.
You get it?
I mean, all I could do is say, yeah, I'm hearing. I don't get it, but
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I don't get it because the only I could use voodoo. Voodoo might be abstract, but at least when the people talk, you could your synopsis could grasp this. I don't grasp it. I don't grasp it, and not because there's something missing in there. There's something missing in the human mind, or wherever I'm at right now, or we are right now. This is abstract. This is way too abstract to me. So how do you get it? What when you see those shape? When you guys see those shape, what do you think about? There's one thing we hear it. What is your brain firing to?
Yeah,
What
I see the similarities. I see something, but I
similarities
can't grab
between what?
it in the structure of the human mind, in how the human mind works, and how the universe works.
How, Jose? Give me an example.
Well, that's the problem. Look, it started in the beginning. I called it the phenomenon geometry in language. And so eventually, and how do you call it when you spoil? Oh, yeah, spoiler alert. What I believe in, and where I hope this will end, is that certain languages, our languages, are like the pentagram, excuse me, between other language families, right? So for example, my mother tongue it could be a gateway between Latin and Italian, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. You understand? And your mother tongue, Krenglish, right? We both name it Creole. You say Creole, and we say Creole, and Suriname until they all have something that sounds alike. But anyway, our languages are like gateways in human communication, right? Just a language is already a gateway, because in your mind you're translating images and sound bites to words. You speak those words, and then on the receiving ends, the words will be translated to sound bites and images again. It's just like two computers. You have layers, and you bring it down in your mind. What you think of, you bring it to the layer language, and then you speak it. And the other on the receiving side, language is received, and it will be translated into images and sound bites, memories, associations.
I look at it this way. So it's firstly the nature of reality, and this is something that differentiated, and I'll give credit to Gus for this one, because it wasn't, he brought attention to it, not me. But he talked about, with how Hegel saw Africans. He saw them as magicians versus how Europeans were. They were more, what did he call them? I'll try to find the name, but the magic versus the believer or the religionist. So in Africa, there was not really a religion, with books and things you're supposed to do and so on. It's not that there wasn't, any form of worship and communication with the spirits and ancestors and so on, but the concept of religion was not so much there. It was more of people trying, not even trying, but succeeding in having control over the forces of nature. So it was not conquering nature like, in modern times, where we want to just take nature's resources and use it for our own good. It was more of being in touch and in balance with the forces, and using those forces to to help you in your life, however it was. There were still rules to it, but those were, that's how it was practiced. Whereas in religions, it's more of simply being powerless and simply asking for things, praying, or offering supplication, or doing things that would give you what your answers. So you're really powerless and throwing yourself at the mercy. So when you look at these many forces, it showed you that you can approach power in different ways. You can approach it by either taking command of it, or by being its servant. And what we're using right now with the AI and all this technology, we're trying to make technology our slave and conquer nature. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, me too. We have to find our place in the universe, and I believe we have been in better places. Proof is the megaliths. I don't believe extraterrestrials built those. I believe that was humans with a better understanding of how the universe works, and I believe they found it in themselves, in the similarities of their structure. And then I'm not completely. I'm not only talking about the body, but definitely the mind. So in the structure of the mind, they understood the universe around them, simply because they did not the first time. Let's call it Adam. The first time it was clean. We had no association. We had no history. There were no monoliths uh, um, pushing us into doubts and questions. So we went straight to higher levels of science, point blank. And now we have all these names to remember, and dates, and all that bullshit. And I believe back then it was like who invented the knife? Nobody knows, but everybody uses a knife. So yeah. Um, I think we can come to a conclusion.
Yeah, yeah. I say that the ways of looking at the world or taking knowledge and power is, it's varied. You can have the same knowledge and use it in completely different ways. You can have, the power to create free energy and use it to destroy. So I think that the knowledge is important, and it's the key to understanding the universe, and the reason why, mathematics and art came together. I was also going to say, in some of those shapes, like you see in, those South African geometrical designs, or in the ways that they arranged the villages, or even in the dancing, there's a lot of hidden mathematics. Just because they're not written out in formulas and so on does not mean that people did not have access to that knowledge. The ways of expressing it might have been different, but that knowledge was still there. So I think that it's up to us to retrieve it. It's up to us to re-understand the world, because it's more complex than, than what we believe it to be. And I feel that knowledge is still in the hands of, just a few people, but it is accessible to all. So yeah.
Well, me, I'm still don't understand. I'm still clueless, but I'm following. So that's all I can say.
Well, we've been there, and people have horrible wars to keep us from it, and yeah, I believe it's worth it. That's that's all. It's in this episode, there was, like I said in the beginning, it may be cringy, because he speaks of stuff that is, yeah, out of the box, very far out of the box, out of sight from the box. But there's documentation. He's speaking of people that really existed. People that wrote a lot, people that have left behind a lot of traces of their quests. You know, so therefore, what this lecturer makes of it is what he makes of it. But when he speaks of actual facts that can be found in museums, yeah, that's it. It the what's for sure is that these guys, these Dean Kelly and John Dee and whoever more, they were looking for something, and it was worth their time. Look at the positions they had, and still this was worth more than what they were paid for by these kings and whatnot. So if they were so knowledgeable and they saw so much worth in this matter, why shouldn't blacks be after it? And they are digging in our backyard to find traces. So why shouldn't we be involved in this? That's those are also my last words. If anybody else has a last word,
No, I found it very fascinating. I think that it's different ways of describing reality, and that, we are a visual people, and geometry is a very visual way of, when you see it, you see it. When you see, the tesseract and so on, it's not, you don't have to understand deep mathematics to see it, but it takes practice. So yeah, it's
The
been
geometry, the
mhm.
geometry that we are learning. All I think you guys are the geometry that people are learning in the world is not nothing to do with spiritual. It's to do to create materialistic technology to conquer people. So I don't I
Yeah, but
don't
that's what I said. It's not, the knowledge is what you use it for. So if they use it for that, what would you use it for? Is
what I'm what I'm trying to say is even when you learn the geology, because geometry, we have a bunch of smart black people. The guy who invented the freaking mailbox, the guy who invented the turning signal for the car. Those are black people. The guy who started the internet, I was a black person. So if he understood the
you went low
geometry,
again.
Yeah, it's really the same thing happens. You're gone again,
Can you hear me?
very far away. I'm laying my ear on my laptop.
Somebody's calling me on the other line, but listen to this.
Yeah, barely, barely.
You can't hear me still, right?
I'm not sure if you. I'm not even sure if you're speaking.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'll come back out. But go ahead, go ahead. You close the show. Close the show.
Yeah, I think you said just close out because it's very hard to hear. So
Yeah, close the show. End the show. Okay,
yes,
then. Well,
it's
I'm
been great.
very satisfied. Um, you saw the reasons why I chose this session and this material. There were clear links to yeah, where we started, geometry and language, and I'm not sure what to do because there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle. So we can go on, and I think we should go on for a while on this subject. I don't know I'll be doing next week. You have suggestions then?
Yes, but probably email them to you in a bit.
And Ozuli, maybe you can put it in the chat if you have suggestions. So to you too, do you have suggestions? Put it in the chat or wait a minute, he's back. Yes. So Ozuli, to you the same. Do you have suggestions for next week?
Um, let me finish what I wanted to say before that. I said we have a lot of smart people, like the guy who invented the phone, the cell phone, the internet, all of that. So, in your mind, do they understand those geometrical shape?
Now they certainly had an understanding of things because
So,
electricity is on and off, right? It's zero and one. So they certainly had an understanding of the difference between nothing and something, and
so
that's where
Louis,
everything starts.
so Louis Latimer, the guy who invented the filament and the light, he and he understood that, probably those smart people. So even with that understanding, they still then use the geometrical understanding to switch the world around,
No,
or at least
they
to put a
certainly
step
used
to it.
math. They certainly used math.
Yeah, but Jose, every yes, they're gonna use math, but how is that switching the world around?
Well, if we decode the math behind language,
What if we
you can speak then you can speak directly to somebody's quote unquote soul. You can speak directly to somebody's being, what the who and the what he is himself. You can bypass people's ego and emotion in your communication. You can speak to the gut of people. At least that.
that's sexy talk, Jose.
Okay, let me try something less. I would say this that we have more, knowledge in terms of its entirety. But it's fragmented, so everyone is specialized in their own field and what they know, so nobody has the full picture. So let's say, in medicine they used to look at, what they call the holistic, they look at your body, your emotions, your family history, all of that stuff, your psychological yeah, but nowadays, it's only one aspect, which is the physical aspect, and that's pretty much it. So I would say that the reason why people are not able to, see the full picture, which is what we're trying to do, connect the puzzles, is that everybody is only allowed to see their own small aspect of it. Whereas in the past, like people like John Dee and so on, they were able to see the bigger picture, not just, politically, economically, spiritually,
You
personally. Yeah.
You guys ever heard of George Washington Carver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that man is, they say, is one of the smartest men of all time. That man used to talk to plants. That man used to do all of it. And that man, if we're gonna say, I would understand that that man maybe understood the geometrical shapes or whatever they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that man still did not use his knowledge to reverse whatever was happening.
Yeah, his voice, for example, or how he was used by people.
But what I'm saying,
Well,
the
that's
point
the
is,
whole thing. One person can't do it alone. That's why
no,
even
no,
this.
no, 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 no. He was, the man could speak to plants.
Well,
Yeah, but
imagine if there
George
was
have you?
Washington,
five of them.
George
Yeah, but
Washington
He's
you.
Carver
not
is
a
not a
superman.
regular.
He's just one out of
Yeah,
even
but
John.
listen.
These were
But
five, at least 5 or 20 people in one group. It wasn't just one brilliant person, and even the most brilliant still needed 2 or 3 people to help him out. So no, even if you go to the most brilliant
But
person,
it's funny how the white man is able to connect with his own people, with a group of people to shit on you. But those black men could not do that.
No, but the white man is making a shitty job of it, isn't he?
He's
He
not.
he,
Whether
he, stole,
Jose,
he,
whether
stole,
he's making a
he
shitty,
stole everything.
whether
He was the most
whether
powerful for centuries. And look now, he's broke and confused.
broken and confused. Oh, can we see?
He's broke and confused.
I don't see him broken confused. All I'm saying is that George Washington Carver, the guy who they said who did the blueprint of Washington D.C. What's his name? Benjamin Banneker or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
That was a brother. So I'm gonna guess that he was able to see the geometrical shape, and that man did not even use those because Shenzhen is saying that it's only a few of us that could achieve that. It's not the whole. It's not everybody. So I get it. But there was all these men were there. They still didn't do that. They
yeah,
still going with
yeah,
that
yeah,
same.
but what they did, they were good in what they did, right? So for example, somebody you have people that are born with a talent with music, right? And music is actually also math. But can you ask this magnificent guitarist, guitar player, can you ask him to solve math problems, right? So I guess they were on their chapter, they were on their discipline, and yeah, what they didn't do was not their discipline, or they were not interested, or they were overlooking it, or they were too busy, you know.
I'm just saying whether they were too busy or not, and those men were at the time where black men were being abused, black women were they were there at that time. Those men were there at that time. George
Yeah,
Washington, so they still what doing something great. What okay, Ben, what did that do for us as a whole?
well, we
And-
can
and-
talk
and
about it. We can talk about it like we are doing right now. We have something, but and I now you remind me. I remember what wanted to say in the beginning. Now the race is in his game, you know. So we're not competing. We're just member of his clan, trying to score in his scoreboard. You understand? And that's what we should change. We should compete completely. So now we're in his system, in his game, trying to make a career in his ladder. We're trying to climb his ladder in any sense, be it gathering knowledge, be it getting rich, be it whatever successful is called, being whatever is called happy. You know, so we're in his lane, in his rule. We measure everything with his rule, you know. And that's what should change. If we want to be whole, we are going to be whole. We are not going to be a member of somebody else's body.
Yeah, I'm just saying that at the end of the day, we could say we have met those men who could um who could read those geometrical shapes. We met them. They're here. They're born every day. Maybe I'm saying this. Maybe I feel away because I can't. I'm not born to read those things because to me it's way abstract. And
Well,
so
then you're saying you're answering your own question. Look what Goku just said.
did those men understand that those knowledge was supposed to be used for their people liberation? I'm
And
a
this
I'm,
one,
I'm a biologist and I study botany in depth. No, my area is microbiology. Is is it their focus? So you mean to tell me grown ass men who looked around and their people were being mistreated, killed, didn't know to use that for the benefit of their people?
well,
Come on, man.
they
Stop.
were, they were working for the benefit of our people. Yeah, yes,
How are they
yes.
working for the benefit of our people? How?
You must put everything together, right? So this dude probably lived in those Black Wall Street days. Was he inventing it for white people or for black people? You have to ask those questions. When was he?
I'm talking. I'm. Who are you talking about, Jose?
All of them.
Most of them were during the Jim Crow era, during slavery era, all of that era.
Exactly, and that's Black Wall Street era. Separated. So you have to ask you the question, if there was a thriving black economy, was he inventing it for his thriving black economy? I guess it's a legal question, right?
I'm saying I don't. You mean to tell me that these grown men at the time didn't know about liberation? They didn't know that little boys were getting hung
Wait,
in the
who are
South.
we talking about? Are we talking about the English people or the people here in America?
I'm talking about all those black, super smart black people who lived in America or in Africa or who were in close proximity to the European, to the colonizers, or to whoever was oppressing them. They worked with them. They created technology for them.
Well,
So I'm asking is that I
Maybe it's what the comment I put online, I put in the screen. Maybe it's that, but maybe it's what Koku says, So, but that's 10, that's Koku. But I have a suggestion. Maybe that's what he thought was liberating, climbing in their ladder. That's what we think nowadays too, right? The lot of us in the diaspora believes that making it in his economy is getting free,
well
being free,
the reason
to buy whatever you want. That's
the
why
reason
we're here, I
the
believe.
reason the reason we think like that is because they perpetrated that same belief system. But
Yes.
them, they were in the middle of it. They were in the middle of Jim Crow. They were in the
Yes.
middle of Jim Crow.
They were in the middle of Jim Crow, forced to create forced to create your own.
I'm just saying, there's a page missing, man. For us to go from this
Still
to Jim,
the question remains. The question remains: Did they invent for their own people? I guess that's a viable question, right?
maybe in their
uh,
mind they thought, oh, I invented something. Then they could see, oh, black people are smart. They let it. That never happened.
We are four here. You have one question, and three of us have this different answers. So 10 takes it that he was in it for himself. Koku takes it that he wanted to show whites that he was equal, and I take it that he believed that was liberation, because that's what I see today around me. people think they're free when they cover all the bills every month, and can buy extra luxury and go on vacation. That's I mean, even big names in rap here in the Netherlands make those kind of songs, like "We Have Arrived," you know. And they shot the video clip on the Cape Verde Islands. But anyway, so no, we did not come from slaves. We have to go the farther back we go, the higher we can climb in our self consciousness.
Yeah, and I'll also go back to, the knowledge and belief. You can have the knowledge, but you might not have the belief. You might have the knowledge, but you don't have the intention. So you might have the knowledge, but you don't have the power, because it's not just one person having the knowledge. It's both a knowledge and a culture, and you create that culture. So what Europeans did, they went and took the knowledge. They take everything by force. It's not always, this simple, oh, it was a nice exchange. They take it, they go around, they send their people around the world to take all the knowledge that they could. And then some of them got together, and it's not all agreements. You have different people trying to do different things, but they know what they're playing for. The Republic, they or whatever. It's like all these different teams, but they're all playing for one thing. We don't even want the knowledge, but we're full of belief. Even when we get the knowledge, if you don't believe that you're great, you're not going to do great things. If you still believe you're less than somebody, or you're not good enough, or you're just trying to get them to tell you how good you are, the best that you can do is, even if you got all the knowledge in the world, even if you got all the money in the world, you're just going to give it back, or squander it, or waste it. So it's not just enough to have the knowledge. And I think that one thing that we can learn from today's the history is firstly that knowledge is important, and it has to be in the hands of the right person. You have to protect your knowledge from other people. That's one of the things that I think, as Africans and as Black people all around the world, we don't really do. We are too eager to share, our knowledge and information with everybody else, and we're too quick to believe everything that they tell us. So, that's where we are at fault. For them, they are quick to take other people's knowledge, but they do not want to believe what other people do. So, yeah.
So, yeah, can we have a final say? Can we conclude the show?
That was mine.
That was mine.
Julia, do you have any last words?
We have to find a missing page, the missing step, the missing step that will help us understand those shapes. Whatever. That's how I feel. But that's it, man. There's a missing step. It's just like when the evolution is trying to find the link between monkey and man, the missing link. Where's the missing link? Most of us are and it's not even. I think 99% of us are not focused on even those. That's why I brought those super intelligent people, the super intelligent being. Like, they use the understanding of those geometrical shapes. The Bill Gates, the any super smart people, smart being like Newton or whatever, they just use it to enhance their own individual progress up the ladder. Only a few, and those few that trying to use it to do good, they get destroyed. So it's just very abstract, and I don't get the abstract, and it's frustrating. But that's it.
Okay, thank you for being part of the show. Thank you, Koku. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Yeah, my final words. Yeah, so these scientists, you can see them as artists, right? artists get played by record companies, etc. Why? Because they are so passionate about what they are doing, and I believe these names that we heard today. I believe those are all are passionate. They are passionate about what they were looking for, and so yeah, everything else is just like standing up, taking a shower, breakfast, dinner, and sleep, right? So what they were passionate about, that's where they achieved those special things.
All right. Peace. It was a good one.
Uh,
All right. I'll see you on the other side. Peace. You're still on there, so you should go off. But yes. I don't know if I can do that. Let me see. Um, I guess I can just leave, but still, you might still be on. Let me see.
Okay. Oh, that was my computer had a blue screen. Okay. Oh, that was so my computer crashed. So yeah, let me close the show. Thank you all for taking part. Uh,
all right, man.
oh no, I just came back to close it, Tan. Yeah, I got a blue screen, but luckily my computer was back fast. I'm surprised that he came back this fast. But
Oh, all right. You hear me?
yes, I hear you.
All right. So, all right, bro. So next time, bro.
Yes, thank you for taking part. But yeah, you are part as a Black Pentagrammer, and I see you next week, Black Pentagrammers, and I hope also participants. I'm very satisfied about the show today because the link is still there. It's not too vague. I hope. Yeah, thank you, and to till next week. Next week, I guess I'm going to share some of my own findings. So there's going to be a lot of wordplay. Till next week, and yeah, keep it black.
All right, later.
Later.